Good evening. I call this April 4th meeting of the Paducah Planning and Zoning Commission to order, and I ask that you please stand with us as we say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Summer, we call the roll, please.
Mr. Benberry? Here. Mr. Bradford?
Here.
Mr. Morrison? Ms. Shramke?
Here.
Mr. Shadle?
Here.
Mr. Wade?
Here.
Chair Cressy?
Here. Ms. Shramke, I believe you have the minutes motion.
I move that the reading of the minutes for March 7th, 2016 be waived and that the minutes of said meeting as prepared by the Secretary be approved as written.
Second.
Second by Wade. Are there any corrections, additions, changes? Call the roll, please.
Ms. Shramke?
Aye.
Mr. Shadle?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Benberry?
Aye.
Mr. Bradford?
Aye.
Chair Cressy?
Aye. Mr. Shadle, you have Baptist Health Paducah.
Yes. I move that this commission receive and file the application of Baptist Health Paducah for the approval to waive 160 parking spaces at 2501 Kentucky Avenue pursuant to Section 126-71B2 of the Paducah Zoning Ordinance. I further move that this commission find the waiver of 160 parking stalls shall have no negative impact on the property, and according to research performed by Siteworks Survey and Design, surface parking is approximately 90% utilized, and the parking garage is approximately 80% utilized, leaving approximately 242 spaces available for during peak hours, and that the Planning Commission has approval to waive the parking requirements at 2501 Kentucky Avenue. I further move the application be approved.
Second.
Second by Shramke.
A little background on this. This is a new cancer treatment center that Baptist Health is building, 43,900 square feet. There's going to be 95 spaces that's going to be reconstructed back on the same lot that it's being constructed on. What we've asked for from the engineers is, as part of their parking waiver, is exactly how many spaces are going to be left during those peak hours. What we receive back is that their peak hours are between 10 a.m. to 4:30 to 5:30 p.m., where surface parking is 90% utilized and park garage is 80%. And that leaves 242 spaces campus-wide, and that is sufficient to cover the 160 that are proposed to be removed because of the need that is going to be created. Another thing to note is that between 2005 and 2016, our parking calculations changed a little bit. They went up a little bit for doctors' offices, but for hospitals, they actually came down, which generated an excess of 28 spaces that they currently have now.
I have, just clarify this for me. So you use the word campus. So that's how we look at this type of a thing, the whole
Yes.
campus rather than the parking spaces allotted to that building?
Right, because Baptist Health, you might park in one spot but be whisked off to ER or wherever. So we have to look at the entire campus parking-wise to make sure that there's going to be enough for everybody for all the uses.
And does campus mean all enclosed within the same area?
Not necessarily. One of the parking lots, the 147 space parking lot, is actually across the street in front of Paducah Tillman.
So I was going to ask if there was a distance allocation for that campus.
Not necessarily. Generally, whenever new parking spaces are constructed, they have to be within 400 feet of the front door. In this case, I believe that Baptist Health actually owns that parking lot.
One thing that I've noticed several trips over to the hospital, that they have a valet service, which eliminates the need for parking immediately where the people are going in. They pick up
Right.
the car. It's well run, and they go over to the parking lot, several parking lots around. The one that I've looked at is the one right next to the Presbyterian Church, the walled portion.
Right.
But it's done very well, and all
it can
the
be
exits are
distant.
handled that way.
Yeah, okay. That kind of answers my question, too.
And Brad Goff is here to add to or clarify or.
If you guys have any other questions?
Just an observation. I just wonder when you're all going to be considering putting more floors on that on the high rise already, and what's that capable of handling?
I don't know that there are any plans currently.
Could you come to the microphone? Thank you.
I don't know if there are any current plans to expand the parking garage.
Josh, I'm glad that you included all this math.
Yes. A lot of computation,
Yeah.
actually.
I feel like I need to get my calculator out, but I think the main thing that I'm looking at that's sticking out to me is that between site works and it says that the staff agrees that according to the calculation of the utilization of existing spots, there'll be 242 spaces available for the new cancer center.
Right.
Am I understanding that
Yes.
correctly?
I had one question just for my edification. On the south side of the building, where you have 9 spaces indicated with a line around it, what does that line mean? Because I don't see that anywhere else, and it's not defined in the legend.
Those are new parking spaces. They're new, but they're essentially being replaced.
Okay, and that's what
New
that
pavement,
is
yes.
designating.
That's correct.
Okay.
Is that where there's currently screening that you're going to remove and put in parking spaces? Is that what that's annotated?
Well, in some of the areas, there are parking spaces currently where those are, but this is basically new pavement. It's new pavement, new striping.
How do you go about figuring the 90% and 80% of utilization on the surface parking? How do you?
Those were estimates that we got from the hospital. The chief of security out there, along with Randy Davis, helped provide those numbers.
There are cars coming in and going out all day long, though, aren't there?
Correct.
So primarily, you're talking about peak times when the maximum number of slots would be.
At its max, that's correct.
And the question about this kind of driveway or alley space that you're leaving between the two buildings, are those going to be public parking?
That's how they are designated at this time, yes.
Is there any space available at all if, say, in the future, if the projections are wrong and parking becomes an issue? Is there any property available to convert?
I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure what the long-term planning is from the hospital's perspective. I'm sure that that is something that they have and are considering.
Mr. Bradford, add to that, the parking garage, when it was approved for additional floors above what they have now.
Okay.
Whoa.
Any other questions, comments? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Shadle?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Benberry?
Aye.
Mr. Bradford?
Aye.
Ms. Shramky?
Aye.
Chair Crecilius?
Aye. Mr. Wade, you have Terry Kern's waiver of subdivision.
I do. I move that this commission receive and file the application of Terry Kearns for the proposed re-subdivision of property located at 722 and 11 Avenue. I further move that the requested approval be given in compliance with all other applicable provisions of the Paducah subdivision ordinance be waived.
Second.
Second by Benberry.
This is just to abolish one interior lot line for a 19,000 square foot lot. Currently, Mr. Carnes has accessory structures on the north lot on 726, I believe it is, and by abolishing this property line, all his house and accessory structures will be on the same lot. And Mr. Mundy's here to address anything else.
I don't know where I've seen that in the subdivision. I don't know where they came up with that. Should ask them.
Questions? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Benberry?
Aye.
Mr. Bradford?
Aye.
Ms. Shramky?
Aye.
Mr. Shadle?
Aye.
Chair Crecilius?
Aye. Ms. Shramky, you have the Urban Renewal and Community Development Agency.
I do, thank you. I move that this commission receive and file the application of the Urban Renewal and Community Development Agency for the proposed re-subdivision of property located at 1532 Monroe Street and 214 to 216 North 16th Street. I further move that the requested approval be given in compliance with all other applicable provisions of the Paducah subdivision ordinance be waived.
Second.
Second by Benberry.
The Planning Commission has reviewed this plat before in July of last year. At that time, it was removed from the agenda. We was pending the demolition of the structures on the lot at the time, which is a fairly large house with a green roof and a duplex that was behind it. The duplex has since been demolished, in fact, the last couple weeks, which left the house. We was fixing to tear the house down, and we got a potential proposal from the Midtown Alliance of Neighbors to rehab the house. So the house is still standing, but what we was going to ask for was for there to be alley access for that new home so that the new owner can build a garage or that sort of thing. However, when this plat got over to engineering and they looked at it, they're not in agreement with the way that the property was surveyed. What the surveyor did was take the entire block and then shorten or lengthen based on deeds that were off. So engineering feels like if the plat is approved using the current way that they use to survey the property, everybody's deeds on that block will be wrong. I've tried to get in touch with the surveyor today and also Angie in engineering, and it's not been resolved as of this time. So we would like to ask that the plat be tabled until the next meeting.
I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Shadle. Would you like to second, Mr. Bell?
Sure. I second.
All right. So we will be tabling this particular item until our next regular meeting, which would be the 18th of April. Is there any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Shadle?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Benberry?
Aye.
Mr. Bradford?
Aye.
Ms. Shramky?
Aye.
Chair Crecilius?
Aye. Is there any other business to come before the commission tonight? Hearing none, we stand adjourned.